All right, let's talk about that little device that's probably in your hand or at least within arm's reach right now, your phone. Today, we are diving deep into the science of why it's so incredibly hard to stop scrolling. We're going to look at the psychological tricks, the actual physical changes in your brain, all the things that keep us hooked. Let's get right into it.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You just open an app for a quick second, and the next thing you know, you've fallen into a time warp. You look up, the room's a little darker, and a whole chunk of your day has just, poof, vanished. It's weird, it's frustrating, but what if I told you that losing that time isn't an accident at all? That's right. If you feel like you're in a constant battle with your phone, it's because you are. But it's not a fair fight. This has nothing to do with you having a lack of self-control. It's because the apps on your phone are literally meticulously designed to grab your attention and hold it for as long as humanly possible. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and see exactly how they do it.
Okay, so to really get this, you need to stop thinking of your social media feed as just a feed. Instead, picture a slot machine in a casino, because that's what it is. Every single time you pull down to refresh, you're pulling that lever, hoping for a jackpot, a hilarious video, a cool photo, a message from someone you like. And this whole setup is built on one of the most powerful psychological principles ever discovered. It's called variable ratio reinforcement, and honestly, it's the engine of addiction. Think about it. If every video you saw was amazing, you'd actually get bored pretty fast. And if every video was awful, you'd just close the app. The real magic, the hook, is the unpredictability. You scroll past a few boring posts, then a kind of interesting one, then another dud, and then bam, jackpot, a video that makes you laugh out loud. It's that little voice in your head saying, maybe the next one will be good, that keeps you pulling that lever over and over again.
And here's what's happening inside your brain while you're doing that. It's all about dopamine, right? The brain's reward chemical. But it's way more interesting than just good video, more dopamine. It's all about expectation. Scientists call this dopamine reward prediction error. When you scroll and get a boring video or reward you kind of hoped for but didn't get, your dopamine levels don't just stay flat, they actually drop. It's a tiny little hit of neurological pain. But when that amazing, totally unexpected video pops up, your dopamine doesn't just go up, it spikes through the roof. This wild roller coaster of pain and intense pleasure creates this incredibly powerful chasing behavior. It's a feedback loop that neurologically looks a whole lot like a gambling or substance addiction.
But the design genius, and I mean, it's kind of an evil genius, doesn't even stop there. Think about old media. A book has a last page, a TV episode has end credits, a newspaper, well, it has a bottom. They all had built-in stopping cues. Infinite Scroll gets rid of all of that. There is no end. There is no bottom. There is no natural point where you can pause and think, okay, am I done here? This means the only thing that can possibly make you stop is your own executive control, the part of your brain that handles good decision-making. And here's the kicker, the most insidious part of all. The app creates a situation where you desperately need that mental muscle to stop, while at the very same time, it's doing everything in its power to completely exhaust that exact same muscle.
So, we've talked about the psychological tricks, but the fallout from being constantly plugged in isn't just in your head. This behavior has real, tangible, physical effects on the actual structure of your brain. Yeah, this isn't just about feeling a little distracted. We're talking about measurable neurological changes.
We're going to zoom in on two key areas. First up is the prefrontal cortex, or PFC. The easiest way to think about this is as your brain's CEO. It's the boss, in charge of long-term planning, making smart calls, and keeping you focused. Then you've got the default mode network, or DMN. This is a cool part of your brain that lights up when you're just chilling, daydreaming, letting your mind wander. It's where your creativity and big ideas come from. And right now, both of these critical networks are under siege.
Now, this is maybe the most shocking thing to come out of neuroscience recently. Studies are starting to show that heavy use of these short-form video apps can lead to actual atrophy of the prefrontal cortex. Atrophy, that means it's physically shrinking, a measurable reduction in the gray matter in the part of your brain that is supposed to handle focus and impulse control. So the more you wear out that CEO we were just talking about, the weaker and smaller it can physically become.
Researcher David Levy came up with the perfect name for this, popcorn brain. See, our brains are amazing at adapting. When we bombard them with this constant, rapid-fire stream of 15-second hits of information, the brain just adapts. It starts to prune away the neural pathways that we need for deep, quiet, sustained focus because, hey, we're not using them anymore. Instead, it strengthens the pathways for quickly processing shallow bits of info. Your brain literally rewires itself to expect information to just pop, 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 constantly, like kernels in a microwave.
And what about that other network, the DMN, the daydreaming one? Well, it only really gets to work when you're not focused on something else. In other words, when you're bored. But let's be honest, when was the last time you were truly bored? With a phone in our pocket, we've basically eliminated boredom from our lives. Waiting in line at the store? Scroll. Commercial on TV? Scroll. A quiet moment alone? Scroll. By filling every single empty second with content, we're stopping our DMN from ever turning on. And that's a huge deal. Because if you're never bored, your brain never gets that essential downtime to connect big ideas, to process what's happened to you, to just reflect. You're too busy consuming content about everyone else's life to actually process your own. Okay, so a shrinking prefrontal cortex and a dormant default mode network, what does that actually feel like in our day-to-day lives? Because these costs aren't abstract. They're real, they're measurable, and they hit everything from our productivity at work to our basic ability to remember things. I want you to take a good look at this number, 23 minutes. So what is that? Well, according to research, that is the average amount of time it takes for your brain to fully get back on track with a difficult task after you've been distracted. And I don't just mean getting back to it, I mean getting back into that deep, productive flow state. Now let's put that number into perspective. Imagine you're working hard on something important. You hit a tough spot and you think, oh, I'll just take a quick 5-minute break on Instagram. Well, that quick 5-minute break completely resets that 23-minute focus clock. By the time you get back to your work and then spend the next 23 minutes just trying to get your head back in the game, you've basically just torched the better part of an hour of productivity. Those little breaks, they are absolute productivity assassins. And it's not just our focus. Our memory is taking a serious hit too. There's a term for it, digital dementia. It describes the state of cognitive overload where we're basically outsourcing our brain's job to our phones. We don't remember phone numbers or how to get somewhere or what's on our schedule because our phone does it for us. And just like any muscle you don't use, our own ability to hold on to short-term information starts to get weaker and weaker. So far, we've covered the design of the apps and what they do to our brains, but we have to talk about the silent partner in all of this, the algorithm. It's the engine driving this whole machine, and you have to understand, its goals are not your goals. The algorithm is not designed to make you happy or make your life better.
The algorithm has one job and one job only: retention. Keeping your eyeballs glued to that screen for as long as possible. As you can see here, your enjoyment and your well-being are way, way down in the priority list. In fact, the algorithm has learned that negative emotions like anger and sadness are often much stickier than positive ones. It's why you see so much rage bait online. Content that is designed specifically to make you mad, because anger will keep you scrolling and commenting way longer than a cute cat video.
And this is where it gets really dark. The algorithm is smart. It's smart enough to know when you're emotionally vulnerable. It's called subconscious priming. Let's say you're having a rough day, and you pause for just a couple seconds longer than usual on a sad video. The algorithm sees that. It logs it. It identifies that you're in a vulnerable state, and it concludes, aha, this type of sad content is really good at holding this person's attention right now. So what does it do? It feeds you more of it. More depressing content, more angry clips, and it can literally create a negative feedback loop just to maximize your watch time by exploiting your emotional state. Okay, I know that was a lot and it sounds pretty bleak, but the whole point of this isn't to scare you into throwing your phone into a lake. The point is to understand how it works, because once you understand the mechanism, you can actually start to fight back against it. So let's talk about 3 concrete, actionable things you can do to start reclaiming your attention and take back control. I want you to think of these steps as physical therapy for your brain. We've got to rebuild those attention muscles that have gotten weak. The plan is really simple, and it's got 3 parts. First, we're going to introduce some friction to break that automatic habit. Second, we're going to make the whole experience less exciting by going grayscale. And third, we're going to actively retrain our brain with some long-form rehab. So how did this actually work? Well, friction is all about breaking that instant habit loop. The addiction relies on you getting that hit instantly. By using an app that adds just a 10-second delay before opening social media, you give your brain's CEO, your prefrontal cortex, a beat to step in and ask, wait, do I really want to be doing this right now? And honestly, a lot of the time, that's all it takes. Grayscale is even simpler. It just makes the slot machine boring. By turning your screen black and white, you take away all the bright, flashy, colorful rewards that make it so stimulating. And finally, long-form rehab. This is active training. By making yourself read a real book or watch a video that's over 20 minutes long without picking up your phone, you are actively rebuilding those weakened neural pathways for sustained focus. It's literally like taking your brain to the gym. So we've seen how the whole system is built to hook us. We've seen the physical price it can take on our brains and the very real cost to our focus. But we've also seen that there are ways to fight back. The design is powerful, for sure, but knowledge is even more powerful. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know exactly how the digital slot machine works, who's really in control of your attention? Is it you?